There we are. Sorry, guys. I moved things around. As you can see, it looks a little different in here. The angle's a little different because I moved my stuff this morning and then I forgot to plug in my audio. Sorry, guys. I'm here though. Finally. All right. Let's see. Yes, YouTube is yelling at me because it does not like that the bit rate is lower. So let me deal with that. Apply. Okay. There we go. I'm sorry, guys. You guys, Neko, you like this new angle? I have been playing around with, well, I've been looking a lot on online to see how people set up, people with a similar setup to me, how they set up stuff. Oh dear, my coffee is probably like way over brewed now. Give me a second. So yeah, anyway, I've been looking a lot online to see how people set up their PCs, with multiple monitors and stuff like that. And I've also been looking into how would I teach with this camera. So been looking into all of that, and I realized that my setup needs to change a little bit in order to accommodate that. So yeah, now you guys can see there's a lot of space in front of me here, but my monitors have actually switched spots from here to over here, which means that I will eventually be able to put a digital keyboard here. Will be much easier to teach, to show people things. I want to have like an overhead camera, which I can probably use my webcam for that to act as an overhead camera. So yeah, I'm still looking into upgrading my setup so I can teach better, really. Because that's my main gig. But yeah, anyway, I'm finally here. Thank you to the 35 of you who stuck around, even though I'm clearly not all here right now. Darcy, you got a Blue Yeti microphone for your birthday. Happy birthday. And a Blue Yeti is very good. Yeah. So this is the sit with me and talk angle. I like it. Yeah. And you guys notice now I'm actually looking underneath the camera to see what you guys are saying, which I feel is a lot more personable than having to always look over here to read what you guys are saying, or looking on another side. So now I'm like at least looking in the same direction as the camera. Careful with the press. Magic Monkichi. Hi, Magic Monkichi. And Oriana, Super Mommy, Amir, Pandora, Pedro, Neko, Darcy. Looks like we've got a lot of our Twitch peeps here. This is fantastic. Noah, Lemon Crush, LV2, DNC4 VR. Hey, yes, you're the viola person. Aren't you over on Twitch too? I feel like you're over on Twitch as well. But anyway, who else is here? Danny is here. Catalina. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Pabs. Fibona Chickpea. Yeah, we've got like our big crew here from over on Twitch. Hey, Emily. Let's see. Einstein, hello. Hey, Amy. Hey, Pierre. Yo, Unsphered. I know which one you are. Hey, Unsphered. Jimmy. I hope I didn't miss anyone. Hey, Jaden. All right. Hey, Michael. Hey, Canned. What's up, guys? So, here we go. Okay, so Magic Monkichi was mentioning careful with the French press. So my Twitch peeps know this because you guys have actually set up a Discord server just for, you know, the people who are always talking with each other over on Twitch. And I shared with you guys during my staycation that I had shattered the French press beaker. It was a very sad time, I have to say. Quite a sad time. I realized that this is probably a better angle, right? Yeah? All right. Let's keep my mess out of sight, or as much out of sight as possible. Nah, no, you guys can totally see it. But whatever. But yeah, I shattered our French press beaker over my staycation, and then we ended up getting a replacement a few days later, which was really nice. And it was actually fairly smooth. But yeah, man, you know, the world, your life almost kind of flashes before your eyes the moment that you see like one of your most beloved kitchen gadgets just kind of fall to its untimely death. Yeah. Pedro, you got a new Nagahara Mini? Did you now? Which one did you get? What kind of wood did you get? I'm always curious to know what works for other people. Harry Potter quote of the day, it's Leviosa, not Leviosa. Did I do it good? Tomas, hello from Dubai, my goodness. I hope you're having a lovely, it's probably evening for you, right? Quite late evening, probably. Hey, Batmanny. Do I still have the piano squish ball? Yes, I do. It's up here. Isn't it cute? I love it. I still have it. Like, I think the thing that I loved about what my piano teacher said was that, like, it made me realize that she's human too. That the fact that she would give this out to her students and understand that it's okay to be frustrated with an instrument you love. Like, she's a professional, and she was actually a prodigy too. And even she wants to just like squish a piano and throw it against the wall when she gets really frustrated. And I don't know. I found that to be incredibly, I don't know, just humanizing, you know? And I think for those of you who, you know, join these chats enough, I think you guys know that I'm always seeking to find the human behind the musician, including myself. I'm sure that those of you who are, you know, who watch regularly over on Twitch will know that, you know, even I can be quite unfair to myself. And so I'm sort of on this journey, this continuous journey to find the human behind the scenes. Yeah. It's very symbolic for me. It's shattered. I know, it's shattered. Oh, my French press. Yeah, I feel so at home too, Fibina Chickpea. Like, when I'm just kind of, like, you know, just like this, talking to you guys. It's so nice. Oh, right. I need to put on the Discord that I'm live on YouTube. I did put it on Instagram, but I didn't put it on Discord. So let me do that real quick. So, I just wanted to chat today. So I wanted to open up the floor to flute-related, music-related questions. And the questions that I would love to see are questions that kind of, I guess, delve into what my experience of something is, not necessarily what I think is the right answer to something. So I'm going to be just completely open and honest with you guys. I really don't like questions that are asking for a magic pill. So I would really rather you guys not ask those questions. But you can still ask questions that kind of touch on the same topic as those types of questions. But maybe if you can explicitly ask for my experience about something, I personally would be a lot more comfortable. Again, just so the newbies in here know, hashtag no spam fam. All right, so make sure you guys can actually chat with each other in the chat. And this is all just one big conversation that we're having together. Please don't repeat questions and basically take up the entire chat. Don't use capital letters continuously, forever. You can definitely use it to, for emotive typing, okay? But please don't spam it, all right? But yeah, those are really the only rules. Please be respectful. If someone says something you disagree with, and especially because we really only talk about flute related, food related things, music related things. If someone says something that you disagree with, I would rather you guys ask why, rather than shutting down other people's experiences or other people's perspectives. We want this to be a community. And we want to learn with each other rather than us just kind of clamoring to be right. All right, so that's kind of just wanting to lay down the rule set for how this chat works for anyone who's wandering in for the first time. I think most of you guys know how this works, so kind of preaching to the choir right now. But anyway, let me put this over on Discord. Oh, you guys did it for me. You guys are so great. Thank you. Yeah. I'm on YouTube, lol. Thanks, guys. You guys are fantastic. I love you all so much. Okay, anyway. Let's see. My skin is clearing up. Jimmy, thank you so much. So I still have adult acne. I don't think it's going away. And I'm accepting it. And so I will still have some weeks in the month where I will break out, but it's kind of expected now. And I can even actually kind of tell from the type of breakout, like if it's something I ate or if it's just hormonal. It's, I don't know. I think I'm just learning to know myself and be okay with it. And yeah. So the other thing is I did take a vacation, a staycation last week. So the stress level is like very much lowered now. Very much lowered. I'm less tired. I'm refreshed. I have like a fresh new perspective on my career, stuff like that. So, where did I get this red bag? So this is actually what do you call this? There are those like food bags, with the insulation and stuff like that. It's just from Costco, like years ago now. It's good. It's huge. You can fit a lot in there. Really great for, like if you're heading out and you're grabbing stuff that, from the grocery store that's like very perishable. It's good. Yeah. A super mommy, I just read about your first masterclass. The tenor hosting the masterclass told you to be seductive and it was awkward. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, it's really funny how in the music world, you never really expect it when you are told to act. And it's really funny when I do the same thing to my students and I'm like, I want you to act a certain part. And I tell them that I'm not expecting you to be this person. I am expecting you to act this person, act this role. You are an actor and you are acting a part. I'm not saying that you are this type of person. And making that distinction is really important when you're acting. Is like, you need to know that you are what you are doing. You are acting. And when you can sort of make that distinction, I do find, at least for me, it's a little easier to act. But because I think my biggest issue was playing showpieces. I was like, I couldn't bring myself to be really showy because I just never felt I was good enough. I never felt that I was, I'm not sure exactly how to say it. Like, I never felt that I was worthy to be one to show off. And then it occurred to me one day that I could just act like someone else who felt worthy enough to show off. And that worked for me. Yeah. All right. Ooh. Okay, so let's look at some of these. These are really good questions. Any advice on taking your first masterclass on piccolo? Darcy is asking. Congratulations. So what I would say is, if you are specifically saying you're nervous, so let's talk about that. I frequently tell, and you're my student, okay, so you've heard me say this before, but I typically will tell people that, like, if you're going into a situation where you're going to be nervous while playing the flute or piccolo, you need to memorize your music. If you don't memorize your music, what ends up happening is essentially hyper self-awareness. We definitely had this conversation. Hyper self-awareness is actually not, it's a little bit separate from nerves, but it can be related. Like, nerves can sort of bring up a sense of hyper self-awareness. And what I mean by hyper self-awareness is when you start to question everything that you're playing. You start to question, is it really that note? Do the fingerings really feel this way? Wait, how much air pressure does this note, is this note supposed to have? Basically, it's anytime you're questioning yourself of like, wait, is it really this? Is it really this? That's when you know that you're being hyper self-aware. And if you memorize something, it really helps you be able to charge through your music even while you are hyper self-aware. So memorize the music is what I would say, or at least like 90% memorize the music. And then you want to go into a masterclass expecting to learn something. So you're not going in to show off how good you are. You are going in there to receive education. So you want to go in with the attitude of, I will come out of this a better player. And so that means then that it's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if you're not playing at your 100% best, right? Because, as you walk through the piece with the guest artist, the guest teacher, you can learn something and play it better. So you want to go in with the expectation of, I'm going to learn something that will, hopefully will transform how I play this. And if you go in with that attitude and less so of like, I need to show how good I am, you'll just have more fun, right? Which is kind of like, I think a lot of people forget to have fun when they're doing this kind of thing. It doesn't have to be all serious. You can have fun while you're doing this. So that would be my answer to that. I hope that helps. Yeah, it's a lot of attitude kind of reframing. Yeah. Emily is asking what made me fall in love with the flute. Honestly, I think it's the look of it and the sound of it, because I saw someone play it on TV when I was 5, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the sound, fell in love with how shiny it was. there was just something really magical about the timbre, I would say. And I, did things like take our little plastic penny whistles and play them on the side. Take little plastic recorder, play it on the side. I did that a lot when I was like 5. But yeah, I think I just fell in love with the timbre. Yeah, I liked the sound of it. I also liked how flashy it was. I mean, I won't deny that. Okay, Super Mommy is asking, how can you get a pristine, pure double tongue? Are there any good exercises you could benefit from to get your single and double tonguing better? Okay, so what I always tell people is that it's actually, if you're trying to go for clarity of tonguing, like articulating on the flute, it's surprisingly less so of an emphasis on if you're doing it correctly. It's more so, are you doing it the way your flute wants you to? So depending on the flute, you will need to tongue further forward in your mouth or further back in your mouth. So what you actually should be looking for are symptoms of subpar tonguing and know what they mean. So for example, if you're hearing your tongue, whether this be single or double tonguing, sound, if it makes the sound that you end up with sound really swallowed, the tongue is really kind of thumpy, and there's a slight delay between your tongue happening and then the sound coming out, that usually means that you are tonguing too far back in your mouth for the flute that you're playing. And this can happen per register too. So a lot of times, because generally speaking on, like, I would say across the board, most flutes work this way. Lower notes tend to need the air in your mouth to sit further forward in your mouth. Or for some people, they can experience this as their jaw needs to kind of protrude forward. Because it's really complicated. It depends on how your head shape experiences airflow. So different people's head shapes, jaw shapes, how high your nose bridge is, stuff like that, all that kind of stuff I am discovering can really affect how you experience airflow in your head. So, but generally speaking, low notes forward in the mouth, higher notes sit further back in the mouth, and the tongue follows that. Now, the opposite problem of this kind of thumpy, like way too back playing tongue is sort of like a spitty, kind of floofy, kind of like that kind of sound to the tongue. This is most often heard on highest notes, so in like third register notes. You'll hear a lot of people just sound like they're just spitting into the flute, and it just sounds really shallow, really shrill. You don't get a lot of body to the sound. And so that means, like, that particular sound means that you're tonguing too far forward for those notes on your flute. You see how many layers there are of like variability, right? So, you kind of have to adjust based on the symptoms that you're hearing. You can't just write it off as, oh, that's bad. No, you need to actually know how it's bad and what it means. So I think it was last year. Yeah, last year I did a live stream review on some piccolos, and that was where I discovered this, that on the same piccolo I was tonguing in one spot 2 octave F major scale, but the lower notes were all really thumpy and had a huge delay between the tongue and the sound coming out, and then the high notes all sounded really spitty and shrill and shallow and very kind of like floofy. So that was where I discovered that, oh no, I have to actually move my tongue as I go up and down. So the further down I go, the more forward my tongue has to come out. And then the higher I went, the further back along the roof of my mouth my tongue had to go in order to keep that same clarity and depth of sound. So yeah, I am very sorry that it was such a complicated answer to your question, but this is all stuff that I discovered on stream in front of you guys. So I myself haven't even known this for a really long time, like hardly a year. So I'm also still figuring this stuff out. But in terms of the exercises you're looking for, I typically will assign my students the articulation book in the Trevor Y practice books for the flute. Because he has some really good exercises in there where he'll just give you sort of like a pattern, and then he'll give you like tonguing patterns to apply to some sort of scalar passage or arpeggiating passage. And that's really good to do a little bit of every day. But, you know, it doesn't matter how many times you do these exercises if you're not actually listening for what the symptoms are and what they mean. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. All right, let's keep going. You're Darcy, so you're gonna play the Vivaldi Pick Concerto Largo. Oh, that one is so pretty. I love that one. Amir, I look and sound a lot more optimistic and energized after the break. I am, and I'm glad it's showing. One of my friends IRL was saying that too, because he joined in on he just lurked in one of the Twitch streams this week. Well, Magic Monkichi, I kind of coined hyper self-awareness because I couldn't really find another way of describing it, because it's not nerves. That's the weird thing, is that I know what my students mean when they tell me that they're not nervous, but for some reason they just don't know what they're doing. It's like it just kind of goes out the window suddenly. But it's like it's not nerves either. Yeah. Pabs is bringing up imposter syndrome from the whole I have to act like someone else to pull off that. Yeah, 100%. I have really bad imposter syndrome. I completely know. And I've been dealing with it by going on Twitch. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Darcy was mentioning that birth control will really help with like hormonal acne and stuff like that. Now, that is true. That is very true. However, I know that my hormones, if they are messed with, my body does not, it does not deal well with it. So I can't really be on birth control. It's, yeah. I had a pretty scary experience with something that essentially it blocked the communication between my hormones and my brain. That was how it was explained to me in layman's terms by my dermatologist. And I went a little bit too high in the dosage, and it just made me snap. Like emotionally and mentally, I just snapped. I went crazy, snapping at everyone, irritable all the time, very, very depressed. So, you know, hormones are no frickin' joke, guys. No frickin' joke. Are you guys my minions? Are you guys my minions? Let's see. Figment Chickpea, you feel like practicing in front of flute players that are a lot better than you both helps you get over your anxiety and actually allows you to be humble and just enjoy the process. That's exactly how I feel practicing over on Twitch. It helps take you out of your head, and it helps you more rationally solve the problems that you are fixing in your practicing. Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. Yeah. Noah is currently practicing Curler G major. Is that like an etude or is it a sonata? It says valse lento con eleganza. Mm, mm. Okay. Slow waltz with elegance. You want a snob factor to that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That type of feel. That's 100%. That's exactly what comes to my mind. You gotta think of that like slow, snobby waltz. You know? Yeah. Yeah. Fadley, hi from Singapore. Hello. Oh, I've wanted to visit Singapore. I was so close to going. And then I couldn't because of the pandemic. So close, man. So close. I was really disappointed. I was so disappointed. I'm going to be completely honest, and this is going to make me sound like a glutton because I am. But I was so looking forward to the food. I was so sad that we couldn't go. Our flight kept getting rescheduled. And then eventually, with the pandemic hitting, hitting the States, we're just like, man, it's not safe anymore. It's really sad. Darcy, I just saw that you wanted to get feedback on tone in the masterclass. It wouldn't hurt to kind of say that, be like, hey, thanks for having me on, and would love to know what you think about, improving tone on this piece. Because then that'll give them something to pay attention to. Because I know that I really appreciate that as a teacher when, when the student tells me like, hey, here's this piece, I'll play it for you, but I really want to improve this. And then that gives me a good idea of like what they're trying to go for. You kind of pick up more on sort of the subtleties of what the student is trying to improve on as they play. But those subtleties you tend to miss if you're not sort of prepped by the student that that's something that you should be looking for. Yeah. Singing while playing, yes, that's really fun. Oh, that's so fun. You kind of do that in music school for fun. Not just to like actually not just as a legit warm-up, because it is a legit warm-up, but it's just really funny to do. Fib and a chickpea, you somehow tend to articulate with your jaw instead of your tongue. Oh, that's so interesting. So are you like moving your jaw like that? Well, I mean, the only thing that I can really think of to tell you is that I believe some of us had a conversation about this before. The Suzuki method of teaching tonguing is actually to imagine that you have a grain of rice between your lips or between your teeth, and then you're spitting it out. And you'll notice that when you do that, you actually start with your tongue at the point where that grain of rice should be, and it snaps back while the air in your mouth snaps forward. Right? And that might help you use more of your tongue than your jaw. You can try that and see if that works. But then again, lots of differences, right, between student or just players. I have to reiterate over and over that, every single one of us actually has a slightly different experience of playing the flute. And you really have to take that into account when you're, in a position like mine and giving out advice on how to play the flute. It's hard because, you have to realize that, I might not share your experience or my experience of the flute might be very different from yours. So what works for me might not work for you. What works for you might not work for me. I will tell you guys though, if you play beautifully and you are at a professional level, no one questions you. They just go with it, right? Whatever you do, fine. If it sounds good, fine, not questioned. If you're in that kind of professional level, I'm not saying that you're doing it right, because I can tell you guys within the last year, I've changed my posture twice. And in that time, the only person who questioned my posture was me. No one else questioned my posture. It was just me. And I changed my posture twice to be able to play the Ibert Concerto. So, like, in the end, do people actually care what you do on the flute to make the sounds that you're making? In the end, the real answer to that is no. No one actually cares. Strange, isn't it? It's pretty strange. It's almost like you're saying K and you move your jaw quite a lot. You're basically doing the second half of double tonguing, but that's your single tonguing. That's what it sounds like. Is that what you're doing? Yeah, so you might want to train yourself with that grain of rice thing and see if that helps you use your tongue more. Flute, it's Finny. What's up? How are you? Singing and playing. You feel like it hurts your throat? Do you sing the same note you're playing, or do you... You can sing any note you want. You can sing a drone. You could sing the same note. If it's too high, you sing an octave below. You don't do too much of it at first, right? Because what you're learning to do is activating your voice box while sending out enough air to make a sound on the flute, which is a lot of energy. So don't do it too much in the beginning, because you can hurt your throat if you do that. Phil! Everyone say hi to Phil! It's Flute Center of New York owner! You like my monkey highlight video? I like it too, to be completely honest. I was watching a lot of, Twitch highlights of people playing games, and I really like how funny they are, and I could feel that I could do something similar with that particular stream. So I did it that way. Aw, Phil. I hope you're doing well. Woot, Phil. Phil, you see how many people love you. Good. I'm glad you're doing well. It's a crazy time to be alive, man. It is a crazy time to be alive. I will tell you guys that, this year has just taken me by surprise, because prior to the pandemic, I could kind of feel that my career was going a certain way. It was very, I was sort of moving away from YouTube, and at least moving away from making weekly videos, and concentrating on Twitch. And then I had a nice number of students, and then I was trying to promote my Patreon, but the teaching has exploded because everyone has to stay at home. So I am very thankful that I'm getting a lot more work, but it does mean that I really feel like I needed to change how I did my other platforms. So Twitch isn't really changing, because I need to practice to be able to evolve as a flutist and teach well. But then I took some time to really kind of think about my career over the last, during my staycation last week. And I realized that for example, here on YouTube, I can't go too hard doing the sight reading thing because it just wears me out. So I do apologize, guys, that I can't commit to that. Like, I was thinking it'd be really fun to do a bash every now and then, but I don't think I can make it a regular thing because I just don't think I have that kind of energy. Because I'm teaching so much now, which I'm so thankful for, because that is what I want my main job to be. I want my main job to be teaching. But it does mean that, I need to sort of reorganize my presence on other social media platforms. And it's so weird to essentially be forced to reorganize my career because I'm getting so much work in a time where it's just really hard for the whole world, people are losing jobs, people are obviously getting really sick, and then with the fire season being so crazy on the West Coast this year too, I've been sort of keeping quiet about how I'm swamped with work, but I don't want to tell people that I'm swamped with work because it makes me feel almost guilty for having my career explode during the pandemic. And it's so weird, and I figured, I guess, over the last week, I realized that I should be a little bit more open about that with you guys so that you guys know what is happening on my side. Hey David, you like the new cam angle? Oh, I'm glad. I do too. But yeah, I just feel like that's what I mean by it is a weird time to be alive. That's what I really mean by that. I thought I would launch into that explanation because I didn't want you guys to misunderstand or think that I meant just the pandemic is really strange. It is truly a strange time to be alive. I really mean it. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Phil. I don't want to feel guilty, but at the same time, I feel that it would be disingenuous of me to say that I don't feel guilty. This is how I feel. And, this channel is about kind of documenting my journey. So I do also feel it would be disingenuous of me not to document it on here, Yeah, I guess Machimonkichi, that's a great way of putting it. It's a strange time to be alive, but it's also an amazing time to be alive. It is weird, man. It is very weird. Yeah, it's, I'm finding myself, kind of replanning how I do stuff, and, and especially today, changed up my setup, and it's feels like a new office, even just by moving things from this side to this side. And I don't know, guys, it feels I feel like I'm walking into a bright new future, bright new chapter, but in an apocalyptic world, and that is really strange. It is a strange time to be alive. It is a strange time to be successful in an apocalyptic world. Yeah. Majimonkichi, you greatly dislike the term social distancing. It's physical distancing. Yeah, I know. I that was another reason why I was going so hard on building a community here. Especially from the beginning of when the pandemic hit the States. I went hard on that because I have been doing this for 6 years, almost 7 now. I know how isolating it is. I've been working from home in front of a computer for many years before literally the entire rest of the world had to do it. I'm not saying that I was the only one, not at all, but we were definitely part of the minority. I hardly met anyone else who had anything remotely similar to the same job that I have, in real life. And so that's why I went hard. Like, I wanted to be that random voice that you hear in the hallway. When you work from home the way that I do, you have to be very proactive about creating a community, reaching out. Even if you join a Discord, you have to push yourself to sit in the voice chat, So I have my IRL friends that, we do this, and I also still find myself disappearing for weeks on end, and I'm like, whoa, what happened? No, I need to go and sit in the voice chat, you have to be so proactive about it, or else you can just, without knowing it, you can isolate yourself. So that's why I started these Let's Hangouts, because I was like, I know what it's like. I need to create this online community so that people, maybe I can help some other people out there who are finding themselves suddenly in the position that I was in 6-7 years ago. Yeah. Do I find that I'm showing many other flutists how to teach online? I think accidentally I am. And I also tell people to go ahead and just copy my online lessons, rules that I have on my website. I spent so long on that, guys. Copy it, just copy it. And it's not going to 100% work for you, but at the very least, you don't have to start from square zero the way I did, right? Maybe at least 60% of those rules will work for you, but at least you didn't have to come up with that 60%. You can just change it as you go. This works for me, but it doesn't mean it works for everyone. And so, I just want people to not feel isolated and alone and not, just feeling crazy, Yeah. The pandemic made you appreciate your friends and family, Amir, a lot more? Yeah, same, man. Unsphered, I get what you mean from, another person watching, when I watch another creator, get very successful and I find it inspiring too. I get that because I am also on the consumer side too, watching other creators, and it makes me very happy. But it's weird when it happens to you. It's really weird when it happens to you, and I don't know how to communicate that in a way that truly, it truly comes across on camera what I mean by that. I'm not huge, which I'm actually very thankful for, to be completely honest. I love that we have a tight-knit small community. I really like that. Now, will I be thankful if this community gets really big too? Yes, of course I will. But at the same time, I do find that it's quite nice when that we have kind of more of a smaller community, at least, in the realm of YouTube. This is considered a smaller community. And, it's weird when it happens to you. And I don't really know how else to say it. You feel a little bit, especially when you become successful in such an apocalyptic time, it's very weird. It's very, very weird. I find myself not wanting to talk about it too much because I don't want other people to feel hopeless that, they lost their job and, stuff like that. It's just, it's weird, man. It's so weird. Imagine Monkey G, you greatly appreciate the community I established. Thank you. I mean, you're part of it, so thank you. I thank all of you who are contributing so positively to this community, because this community wouldn't be here if not for you guys. You know, I could talk all I want, but you guys actually have to create the community, right? Yeah. Lemon Crush, these streams make you feel not so lonely while working from home. That is exactly what these streams are for. 100%. That's exactly, like, I realized over my staycation last week that, like, I was like, no, I need to return to the original idea of these Let's Hang Out streams. These Let's Hang Out streams is really just to provide that voice in the hallway. You know, so you're just not so isolated when you're working. Yeah. Darcy, you're saying that I was already established when other professional flutists were scrambling, it seems. Okay, here's what I think. This is the hand that was dealt to me. All right. When I first started out 6-7 years ago doing this online stuff, I was not actually even a willing, I don't know what you call it, a willing person. I was sort of dragged into it. I was telling you guys a couple weeks earlier that the first online student I got, the mom emailed me and asked if I if I offered Skype lessons, and I didn't reply for 3 days because I was scrambling to create some form of a handout that looked official. And then I replied and said, oh, why, yes, I do. Like, I was scrambling too, okay? Like, it just so happens that I was scrambling 6 years before the pandemic hit. So, like, I think the way that I see my career growing is sort of like, it's not just a series of fortunate events. It's also, I keep saying this, it's riding the waves of opportunity, trying things and seeing what works for you, right? So you guys may notice that some of my YouTube videos are actually a little bit experimental, right? Like, I might, for some reason, edit something completely differently than I have before. Why am I doing that? Because I'm seeing if it works. If it doesn't work, I'll know it doesn't work. So yeah, definitely there are some videos that I tried making that I just don't feel it worked in the end. And so I didn't do it anymore, but you have to try, right? And so this is how I've arrived at where I am. I did not do it out of, like, just because I'm, I don't know, a genius or whatever. No, you just have to try things and see what works. Tons of failures have happened on my end before I got where I am. Failed contracts, failed partnerships that never happened or ended up never happening. I was supposed to, I envisioned myself being a local in-person teacher. That didn't happen. I envisioned myself, becoming a chamber music performer. That didn't happen. There were a lot of things that I thought I was going to be, and it didn't happen. And what I am now, one, I never thought that this would be my career. Two, like, there's no thought that this was something that I could do. Teaching online and streaming like this. There was no thought of that. Like it was just not possible. Just didn't exist. This just didn't exist. And so it's like, but what did I do to get here was I just rode the waves of opportunity. I tried things. I let myself fail. If something fell flat, then I examined why it didn't work. if something random happened that was really good, I examined why it worked. And you have to keep reflecting on what didn't work and why, what did work and why. And that will help you arrive at what you should be doing with your life and with your career. And constantly keeping up with technology, keeping up with, what platforms out there actually work for you. You have to, you can't be set on one idea of what you will be in the future to get to such a strange career as mine. You have to be open. You have to be willing to try things. You have to be willing to fail. You have to be willing to make a fool out of yourself, And I'm not saying that you should, get involved in anything that makes you so uncomfortable that it gives you a panic attack. I've done that. I don't recommend. I attempted to be, I'll just say it, I attempted to be a representative of a flute company, like a sales representative. And I got panic attacks instead from the act of selling. I can't do it. I got full on panic attack. I just kind of froze. I started just weeping, and I was shaking too, and heart palpitations, the whole works. I got so I've tried things and so many things have failed. And to arrive at something like this, you really have to not be hung up on one ideal of what it means for you to be successful. You have to be very open. Maybe you're better at something that you had no idea you were, right? My family certainly knew what I was good at. I'm good at talking people's ears off. So they're not surprised that this ended up being my career, Yeah. Hey, Leon. Katie Flute hasn't posted in months? Yo, I hope she's okay too. Do we have any tips on how not to get distracted while doing schoolwork? Well, Oriana, I will tell you that what I used to do was time myself 5 minutes of just doing nothing and just knowing that I had 5 minutes, that I was allowed to do nothing. Then after the 5 minutes, I would just do my work for an hour. I'd be like, going for an hour, I'll just do my work, I'll take another break. So that's how I did it. That's how I made my way through IB. Because IB actually was more work than music school. That's how I did it. I'm not saying that that my way will 100% work for you. Because different people, different ways of doing things, right? But you can kind of take that and run with it. Someone wants to go to British Columbia. It's a beautiful province. I'm very, very biased, but it's a very beautiful province. Oh, Leon, you wanted to go to British Columbia. Oh. The border's closed. And it just makes me so freaking sad. Yeah. I'm just reading what you guys are saying to each other. You guys are so sweet. I go with the flow and make everyone feel good. Leon, thank you. I mean, that's the most I can hope for, you know. Leon, you like my earlier videos. I would say that my earlier videos, like, I feel that one, I changed from then, and I hope you guys are okay with it. I can't deny it anymore. I'm a very different person than I was than in those earlier videos. I like myself more now, though. I will be completely honest with you. I keep them up, those videos up, because in that time, they were good. And I think it's a great way to document my growth, you know. Imagine when Kichi, you think my theme song should be This Is Me from The Greatest Showman? I haven't seen it yet. Isn't that terrible? I'm so behind. Yeah. The bully video was really fun to make, but it made me realize that I am not cut out to do that much work for a video. That took a long time to make. Oh boy. Yeah. Should I do a masterclass for Flute Concerto in D by Mozart? Should I? Maybe I should. Are there any videos that I edited that didn't end up uploading eventually? Yes. And they were all videos where you could tell that I was tired and annoyed and did not want to actually make the video. So I just didn't. Some of them I reshot. But most of those ended up being kind of when I was burning out last year. Yeah. Making a video a week is not sustainable, just so you guys know. It is not sustainable, especially when it is not your main career. When it is your main career, I think it's a little more sustainable, but not always. This is why a lot of YouTubers will go on long breaks, because the weekly slog to get a video out is absolutely intense. Whereas me sitting down like this every week, every other week to chat with you guys, I don't have to prep for this. All I do is turn on my cameras and I just start chatting with you. That's all I'm doing right now. It does not take, preparation beforehand. You don't have to set things up. You don't have to, there's a lot of things that I have nixed from my to-do list so that now I can focus on teaching. That you normally have to do when you create a weekly video. Because what you actually have to do for a weekly video is first you have to come up with ideas. So there's a brainstorming session to come up with ideas with what you're going to talk about that week. Then you have to flesh out, once you figure out what you're going to talk about, you have to flesh it out in some way, shape, or form, right? Typically, a YouTuber will write out notes about what you're going to say. And you want it to flow well. You want the narrative to work and to not be kind of weirdly disjointed. Then when you actually are setting up the shoot, at that point I was putting on makeup, and makeup would take me 45 minutes to put on. Playing with the lighting would take another half an hour to 45 minutes depending on what I was lighting. Setting up the camera would take another, because it's not just the camera, it's also, it's on a tripod and blah, blah, blah. And, sometimes you also have to set up the audio separately. And you have to, the previous night, you have to make sure that you have all your batteries, your video batteries, camera batteries charged, ready to go. So setup takes a really long time, couple hours at the very least. The actual shooting can take anywhere from an hour to a few hours, because you're doing multiple takes of things to get the right kind of beats, or to at least sometimes what I used to do was give myself different ways of delivering the same line so that I had kind of different inflections to choose from when I'm editing. And then after you're done shooting, you do the teardown, which generally is faster than setting up, so like an hour or so. And then you're already poofed by that point, but then the editing down a video to approximately 10 to 15 minutes from like the monstrosity of footage that you took. Like for a really good video, minimum you end up spending about 15 hours editing minimum to get it really good. Like what I mean by very good is that the beats for the comedic timing has to be right on. So you're actually watching the same footage and the same clips and the same sequence over and over and over just to make sure that the comedic beats are right on. You are, you have to, then you have to end up watching the whole thing with several goes through the whole thing. You have to kind of weed out the parts that are extraneous, any parts that are redundant, any parts that don't fit in the flow. So you're basically just watching it over and over and over and over and just weeding things out until the whole thing flows really well. So that's why it takes like minimum 15 hours to make a good video. Did I only take 2 hours to edit videos towards the end of me doing weekly videos? Yes. And as a result, they are not as good. The good videos take like 15 hours to make at least. The better ones, the ones that I'm really proud of, those ones usually ended up taking me more like 25 to 30 hours to make, and they're only 10 to 20 minute videos. So I'm not joking when I say that doing weekly videos on YouTube is a freaking full-time job. And I don't think most people realize how much work goes into that. So I cannot commit to that anymore, because my dream, my fulfillment is mostly in some form of teaching. And so online teaching, online lessons, and then to pair that with the lessons to evolve myself, I have to practice. So I stream on Twitch every weekday to make myself practice so that I don't become stagnant as a teacher. And then a side effect of that is that I end up teaching a little bit when I'm on Twitch. And then here too, I'm taking questions from you guys because I like to share my experience with you guys. There you go. Is that crazy or what? That's why I stopped making weekly videos. Because I don't have that time. I had that time before because I didn't have a lot of students. In the beginning, like 6-7 years ago, I was teaching 2 hours a month. Of course I had time to make these weekly videos and I didn't get burnt out, right? But then, now that I'm teaching every day or almost every day, I can't do that anymore, guys. Can't do that. Oh, Darcy. I just saw that you said that my videos changed your life in a positive way. Oh. I love that you guys liked the gay flutist video. I still get people commenting on that who clearly don't get it, and it annoys me. It really annoys me that some people don't get it, what I'm saying in there. They don't get that I'm an ally. I'm like, did you not watch to the end? I hate it. That's one of the reasons why I stopped making videos that are that fleshed out narrative-wise, because I just feel like people don't watch to the end. So a lot of people don't realize that I'm an ally. It annoys me. Oh, yeah. Jokes about Flute Lady writing themselves here. I talk real good. The better videos are the live, no edits. I'm glad you think that. Not everyone does though. And everyone is, it's totally fine to have your own opinion. Some people don't like it. Hey, Kuro, hi. How are you? Oh, you guys. You stan my alyness. You know what? So I saw you guys using the word stan, and I was like, I went to John and I was like, does stan mean what I think it means? Like, is it like, is it like you're like a fan? I'm so old. You guys. Weekly videos were really taxing. Hey, Daniel. Hi. Hey, Sigs. The internet is full of people commenting on stuff without watching any of it. Yes. And it annoys me to no end as the creator, as the content creator. Oh, it annoys me. Because it's like you spend so many freaking hours making this thing. You're watching it all the way through to make sure that the flow is good enough to keep people motivated to watch it to the end. You spend all this time trying to make the flow just right, and they, like, if you're gonna stop watching, that's fine. Can you not comment? If you haven't watched the whole thing. I don't know if you guys can tell. I'm very, very, very annoyed at people who do that. Yeah. It's just, it's so annoying. I believe stan, because I looked it up. I believe stan is like the word stock and fan in one. That's what I saw, but I'm not sure if that's 100% what that is. Victoria, you're going to test flutes this weekend to find your college flute. Oh my gosh, congratulations. That's so exciting. So, looks like you're looking into a Haynes. Beautiful flutes, beautiful flutes. I believe I've noted this before, but if I was taller and proportionally bigger, I think I would love a Haynes, but I think I'm just a bit small. Daniel, you're playing the French horn, but you love my videos. Oh my gosh, that, I always tell you guys, I regard it as some of the highest compliment ever that people who play other instruments like watching this channel. Thank you very much. That is huge for me. Yeah, I seriously was like, who is this stan that everyone's talking about? I think also it's not stock and fan. I think there was actually a guy called Stan or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, it's just, yeah. Yeah, it's like an obsessed fan. Yeah, and I think there was actually an obsessed fan of someone named Stan, I think, who was kind of like a stalkerish fan. Yeah. I am what people in Toronto call a fruit fly. You mean like an ally? Oh, I love it. That is so great. I had this conversation on Twitch with people. The whole being an LGBTQI plus ally. I think a lot of people who are very religious, and I am religious myself, okay? So, but I noticed that a lot of people who are very, very religious, very conservative, tend to not realize why LGBTQI plus people are fighting for marriage equality. It's a legal thing. It's, like if you're going to spend the rest of your life with someone, it's very convenient, and it's not just convenient, but like there are legal reasons why you should be bonded together under the eyes of the government, right? it's having even visitation rights to the hospital, wills being written, like stuff like that. Like, I don't feel that a lot of really religious people consider that part. They just overly look into the moral aspect, and I'm like, one, what does that have to do with you? Two, I think you're missing the point. It's a legal thing. Hey, April. The token straight girl that'll make cello for us. Is that me? By the way, if you guys are wondering what the whole Jello thing is about, over on Discord, we regularly have Jello fights. I'm not sure where it came out of, but we do. It comes from an Eminem song. Yeah, but I believe I remember looking that up. Yeah. Yeah. It's I know, right? Like, I had this conversation some time ago now. I think maybe like a month or so ago over on Twitch with people. And I was just like, I just don't really understand why you have to get up all in other people's business. Like, what's the big deal? I don't know what, well, okay. In that Twitch discussion, I did actually come to a conclusion about where it comes from, right? It's and someone put it very succinctly that it is cognitive dissonance. So essentially, if you believe in something, but then, someone else is fighting for something that clashes with your belief, it can make you really insecure, because suddenly, are you a bad guy? But you're supposed to be a good guy this entire time. Cognitive dissonance. So a lot of these people, when they're fighting against these kinds of rights, they're really just insecure and fighting for themselves. They're not fighting, they're not truly fighting against something. They're fighting to be the good guy and to be validated as the good guy. Oh, I is for intersex. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I. Yeah, it's just, cognitive dissonance. It's a thing. I certainly went through it myself. I would say that my video about being a gay flutist is that was my journey through my cognitive dissonance. And if you watch through the whole thing, you can see how I documented my journey through that, right? And it's interesting to document that and then to see people's responses to it, because I certainly felt very liberated from being able to tell people my journey through cognitive dissonance with regards to LGBT plus rights. I think it was good for me to say it out loud, Yeah. It's really interesting. Being going through cognitive dissonance and being going through that and coming out as an ally, it's a really interesting experience. And I do have music school to thank for this, because I think if I didn't go to music school, that I don't think I would have met the humans of the LGBTQI plus community. I certainly would not have met as many. You know, they are my like most cherished friends. I love them so much. And I think that's what really made me confront my cognitive dissonance about this, which kind of made me make that video. You know, again, it's about community, right? If you create community, you get to know people, these people become your family. You know, when they're your family, you have to be an ally. You want to be an ally. You want to fight for them. You want to support them. You want them to be happy, you know? Yeah. Hey, Dreamcatcher. I play Pretty Bird songs on a tiny stick of an instrument. What else matters? I know. Oh, am I making you cry? Well, like, I always say this. I think humans thrive on community. And if you're going to get through to anyone, the best way to get through to someone about something is through love, is through truly caring about another person. Like when you explain something to someone, it's not about you being in the right. It's about you guys sharing your experiences and learning from each other. And that's how I run everything. That's how I run my lessons. I certainly used to be of the opinion that I was the teacher, and so I know more than the student. But I feel like the last year or two has really taught me that I don't know how my students experience the flute, and I really need to freaking listen. And I need to learn how they experience the flute, and I need to not only accept it, but embrace how they experience the flute. And in that way, I can then be a better teacher. So I am learning about the flute experience just as much as my students are when we're in the lessons. And it's very humbling. But at the same time, it's like, it just creates so much more of a loving atmosphere. I'm more game to learn things. My students are more open about their experiences, which then helps us both kind of teamwork figure out ways to make them to help them experience the flute better. Yeah. We really did talk about everything in this stream, huh? Yeah. I love being able to sit and talk about things very openly. Yeah. The whys of things. And I think that's why I've sort of made it a new rule in this chat here, that I am requesting that you guys do not shut down other people's experience of the flute. Like if someone says something of like, oh, this really helped me, but you don't agree, don't shut it down. Instead, what you should do is ask why. Why does it help you? You know, how do you experience music? How do you experience the flute? Why does it help you? Because quite honestly, you will probably learn something that it might not be applicable to you, but it's kind of the same idea as like random flute knowledge never hurt anybody, right? The more you know, maybe just the more understanding you are of other people, right? Super mommy, of course you're part of the community. The LGBTQ blah 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 blah. That's why they added the plus. Because it's just gonna go woo down the alphabet, right? Yeah, the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, why, and how. I'll also put a little H there. Like that. I think it's just better, you know. Like, you guys can feel it in the chat here too, right? The chat now feels really nice because people can say things, and the best thing is that, like, if you say something, someone might ask, oh, why do you experience that? And then, like, it gives them an opportunity to explain what they're experiencing. And then some other people can be like, oh, hey, that happens to me too. And then other people are like, oh man, I didn't know that happens to people, you know, like, and it just like makes everyone so much more understanding of each other. We all have a much more sort of like holistic kind of, I guess, perspective, a wider perspective, a wider worldview of how this works for all of us. I just think it's better. Yeah. LGBT. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right? Like, I don't know. It's I think well, I will be plain with you guys with what is going through my head. I think the flute community has a very deep history of being pretty nasty to each other. It's actually documented. So, a lot of like when the flute was first being developed, there was a lot of conflicting, I guess you could almost call them discourses. Maybe that's not the right word, but they would write things about, like what constituted good flute playing. But when in reality, it was just a bunch of flutists arguing, basically having very long Twitter wars over what constituted good flute playing. And a lot of these writings in the early 1800s, a lot of how they wrote was directly dissing someone else's idea of how to play the flute well. Or dissing an old way of playing the flute. So in actual fact, the flute community has a really, really deep history of dissing each other. And I have to admit that it is hilarious reading these things. So if you guys wanted to read some of it for yourself, there's it's compiled by Robert Biggio. It is I think it's readings from the history of the flute. I believe that's what it's called. But let me look it up real quick just to make sure. But if you guys look up Robert Biggio, you guys will find it. Okay, so let me look up Robert Biggio readings. Yeah, readings in the history of the flute. And this is the whole title is Monographs, Essays, Reviews, Letters, and Advertisements from 19th Century London. And I hogged this book from my music school library for years because I would just read it for fun because it was so funny how they talk to each other. They were just dissing each other. It's like, I have a horrible inclination to really love reading things that are very unnecessarily dramatic, and this fits the bill exactly. One of the people that is quoted in here, so I have the original book for one of the authors here. His name is W.N. James, and he wrote a book called A Word or Two on the Flute. And yeah, it's old-timey Twitter wars. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So he wrote this book called A Word or Two on the Flute. I found this book also in my music library, my music school library, and I also hogged this for several years because it's just really funny to read out of. This one is not the exact book that I hogged. I bought this online, found it somewhere for 20 some bucks. Another music library decided to just sell this, so I bought it. And I'll read to you guys an excerpt in this, just so you guys can get sort of a flavor of what I'm talking about. But there's a guy here named Charles Nicholson who wrote an answer to this. He literally called it, quote unquote, a word or two to Mr. W.N. James. And then W.N. James wrote a response to it's literally called Mr. James's answer to Mr. Nicholson. Oh, good night, Fibbing a Chickpea. Okay, so, but yeah, there's, someone else wrote, William Anand, he wrote a piece called A Few Words on the Flute. Like, come on! You know that they are just, like, wanting to one-up each other. And I have to say, I feel really a little bit hypocritical, just how much I'm enjoying how awful they are to each other. And yet I want to create this community that is not like that, you know? Oh, Phil, thank you. Oh my goodness, thank you. I have found what I excel in. I'm a communicator. Oh, thank you, Phil. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll read to you guys the title of the other books, or the other works in here. The Flute Explained by Cornelius Ward. A Treatise Upon the Mechanism and General Principles of the Flute by John Clinton. There's Sketch of the Successive Improvements Made in the Flute by Richard Cart. A Few Practical Hints to Flute Players. Like, come on! Why would you call your article A Few Practical Hints? Like, how that, it's so condescending. It's amazing. So this is also by John Clinton. And then there's one called The Flute in Its Transition State by T.C. Skeffington. And then there is an essay by Bem himself, Theobald Bem. Essay on the Construction of Flutes. So now I will read for you guys an excerpt that I love reading to my students. This book is divided into chapters, and each of the chapters kind of go over a certain aspect of flute playing. So I am going to read for you the beginning part to his fourth chapter, which is called On Articulation. So I'm just going to read for you guys the first paragraph. All right, you only need the first paragraph to get a flavor of how these books are written. Okay, you guys ready? Here we go. On articulation. The double tonguing, and that's italicized, the double tonguing used to be of high consideration among flute players. But with all possible deference to the eminent masters who still use it, I am of opinion that in this age of refinement, it ought to be entirely exploded. Okay, now keep in mind, this was in the early 1800s, okay? It is, in every point, view it which way we will, a trick of execution, which has as much of quackery in it as any of the wonderful nostrums which have for their object the renovation of human life. It is also a false and bad articulation, and however well it might have served the purpose of old masters when the flute was, as it were, an instrument full of quackeries, it is certainly unworthy the professors of the present age and of the great perfection to which the instrument is now brought. My friends, that is the first paragraph to his chapter on articulation. Do you see why I hogged this book for like 3 years? I know, it sounds like a dude with an open mind, eh? Should I just do a dramatic reading of this entire book? Oh my god. Isn't it funny? See, that's why I hogged this book. So I hogged this book, and I haven't bought it yet. But I hogged the Robert Biggio compilation for like 3 years. Because it was so funny. It's so funny. Oh, I laughed out loud in the library when I read that part. Should I do a reading stream? Flute drama. The history of flute drama. Should I read more? Okay. Let's see. Should we? I haven't read a lot of the rest of it. Or I read some before, but it's been a long time. That is the passage that I read to my students so that they get a really good idea of kind of the history of flutists talking to each other. Okay, here we go. Let's do a little bit of the first chapter. All right, so the first chapter is called On the Flutes of the Ancients. It is with feelings of great diffidence that I commence this part of my undertaking, for it is, to say the truth, a difficult one. Every author who has yet treated of music as a science has failed to establish in a satisfactory manner in what the music of the ancients consisted, whether of melody and harmony or melody alone, and it is, even at the present day, held as a complete matter of faith. If then we know so little of the origin of music itself as a science, it is easy to conjecture the difficulty of fixing a time and place for the invention of an instrument. And even if we discover beyond all controversy the date and place of its invention, still there exists a question, and one of difficult solution too. Who was the inventor? The subject itself is so dark, and authors concerning it are so conflicting in their opinions that all a writer can do in such a case is to produce the several authorities in support of his own opinions, and then leave it to his readers to be convinced in which way their judgments lean in. I believe, however, that it is agreed on either side, and has never been a subject of much contention, that the flute is of Egyptian origin. Indeed, the Greeks, who lost no merit by neglecting to claim it, unanimously confess that most of the ancient musical instruments were of Egyptian invention, and they expressly mention the monolos, or single flute, as originating with this people. David's asking what book this is. This is A Word or Two on the Flute by W.N. James. I believe this was first published in 1826. Notice how they singularly ignored China, which is a few thousand years older. I know, right? Come on. Do I need to do a 10-minute reading once a month? I'm down. Okay. Let's read a little bit more. Okay. We're probably, because this section goes for a while. Yeah, this section goes for a while. But maybe let's do like one more paragraph. How does that sound? Okay. Like one more paragraph actually goes for like a little while. Okay. Dr. Burney and Sir John Hawkins are also of the like opinion. But if we wanted a stronger confirmation and to clear up all doubts of the subject, Juba has furnished us with it in his theatrical history. The account which he gives is very curious and interesting. The Egyptians, says Juba, called it fautings. Fautings? It's spelled P-H-O-T-I-N-X, okay? Or crooked flute. Its shape was that of a bull's horn, as may be seen in many gems, metals, and remains of ancient sculpture. Not only the form of this instrument, but the manner of holding it is described by Apuleius in speaking of the mysteries of Isis. Afterwards, says this author, came the flute players, consecrated to the great Serapis, often repeating upon the crooked flute, turns toward the right ear. The airs commonly used in the temple, right? So he's talking about how the flute is like aiming that way, which is how we hold it today. Okay, and thus Juba again, though so ancient and honorable in origin, has been assigned to the dichord and trichord, which can be both fairly traced from Egypt, yet the single flute or monolos is said by several writers to not only to be a native of that country and of much higher antiquity than the lyre, but according to Athenaeus, to have been invented by Osiris himself. Okay. So basically, according to this dude Juba, the flute was invented by the Egyptian god Osiris. Why does it sound like bad church? He's definitely using the buzzwords of the era. I think so. Yeah. Yo, I want to read more. You guys good if we keep going for a little while? Yeah? Okay. Dr. Burney, in speaking of the antiquity of this instrument, says that all the representations which he had seen of it encouraged him to believe that not only the first instruments in use of this kind were suggested by the horns of dead animals, but that the horns themselves were long used as musical instruments. Thus we read in Joshua chapter 6 that the trumpets used by the Hebrew priests at the siege of Jericho were made of ram's horns. I like that he doesn't even refer to this as like in the Bible. He's just like in the book of Joshua chapter 6. Okay, before the invention of the flute, music could have been little more than metrical, as no other instruments except those of percussion were known. Well, that is presumptuous as heck, don't you think? Okay, and when the art was first discovered of refining and sustaining tones, the power of music over mankind was probably irresistible from the agreeable surprise which soft and lengthened sounds must have occasioned. Mr. Bruce, the celebrated Eastern traveler, and who cultivated music with much application, in a letter to Dr. Burney, describes 6 musical instruments of antiquity, which he found in Abyssinia, and which he says are still in use there, and among the rest gives a description of the flute in these terms. The flute in Ethiopic language is called quetz, a word difficult to be written or sounded in English. In the Amharic, it is called agada. It is about the size and shape of the German flute, but played upon long ways with a mouthpiece resembling that of the clarionet. Its tone is not loud, but accompanied by a kind of jar, like a broken hautboy, I guess like an oboe, not owing to any accidental defect, but to construction and design, as it would not be esteemed without it. He likewise adds that it is quite common in Abyssinia and much used in war. Matching Monkichi. You asked me to keep reading and you're regretting it. Hot boys. I think it's hot bois. Is that right? I cannot say it correctly. The clarionet. The crazy instrument where the reed is on top of the mouthpiece, held against the upper lip. Leonis. Oh, yo, I just saw a really good part. I have to keep reading. Okay. The father of Cleopatra and the last of the Ptolemies derived the title of auletes, or the flute player, from his excessive attachment to that instrument. Strabo says of him that besides his debaucheries, he applied himself in a particular manner to playing on the flute. Oh, really now? The father of Cleopatra? He had such an opinion of his own abilities as to institute musical contests at his palaces, and had there the courage to dispute the prize publicly with the first musicians of his time. And as the dress of players on the flute among the ancients was peculiar to that profession, this prince submitted to wear the robe, the buskins, the crown, and even the bandage and veil of a Tebison? I don't know what that is. As may be seen on a beautiful amethyst in the King of France's possession of inestimable value, which is supposed to have been engraved by the command of this prince and worn by him to gratify his vanity on account of his musical excellence. Indeed, Cicero, who had an esteem for him, has seriously given him the surname of Auletes, or Auletes. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. His violent passion for music and for the company of musicians gained him the name the new Bacchus, or patriarch of extravagance. Yo, he has a little note here. So he has a little side note about this, the patriarch of extravagance. Okay. It is a very remarkable coincidence that the only allusion which Shakespeare has made to this instrument is in his exquisite description of Cleopatra's barge. He's using Shakespeare as evidence. I feel like that's not quite how you do research. Okay. So he's now quoting Shakespeare. The barge she sat in, like a burnished throne, burned on the water. The poop was beaten gold, purple the sails, and so perfumed that the winds were lovesick with them. The oars were silver, which to the tune of flutes kept stroke and made the water which they beat to follow faster, as amorous of their strokes. This is from Antony and Cleopatra, Act 2, Scene 2. It was perhaps during this period that the practice of music became sufficiently general among the common people of Egypt to render credible the following assertion of Athenaeus. It does not appear by the writings of any historian, says he, that there ever was a people more skilled in music than those of Alexandria, for there is not a peasant or laborer among them who is not only able to play on the lyre, but is likewise a perfect master of the flute. We must, however, take this extravagant assertion with some little deduction, but it will at least serve to show the great cultivation of the flute at this period among the Egyptians. Yo. I don't really feel like W.N. James is really doing his research really properly. Do you guys agree? He's making so many assumptions. Oh, it hurts me. Darcy, these people needs to get laid. Oh my god. Oh, this is so good, man. This is so funny. It's so funny. Like it like, guys. I think that is enough for today. Do you guys see like how deep the history is of talking like this? It, you know, like we have in the flute community, we have a deep-seated history in talking and making assumptions like this. And you can actually see it reflected in how some people talk to each other. And that is what I am trying to actively discourage. The author smoked some great weed, probably. Yeah. Should I read more? Should I have like a section? Like I should have like a dedicated part of this live stream where I just keep reading parts of this to you guys. Like you cannot take what this guy is saying as primary source. You can't, because like you can see how he's writing about it. He just goes on these just goes on these assumptions that are just insane. It's like he has the assumptions already and then he tries to like source things to back it up, instead of going to sources themselves and then drawing conclusions out of them. He's doing it completely backwards. You guys can you guys feel that? But that's why it makes it so funny. You can't take what this guy is saying as not a joke. The gospel according to pretentious flute dudes. Oh, it's hard to find this, guys. It is hard to find this. At least within the States, it's really hard to find. I was combing online bookstores to see when I could find one that was affordable, and like it's hard to find this because I think this is out of print now. Pretentious gay flute dudes. Does he sound gay? That's not a bad thing, by the way. But yeah, it's, hey Melanie. But yeah, it's like you can see, like I really disagree with how he talks about this stuff and writes about this stuff. Like it's clear that he has an assumption that he's made, and then he's just like scrounging around for things to support what he says, which is not how you do research. Yeah, it's so bad it's good. Yeah, that's exactly, which I'm not surprised. So like I'm not surprised that, you know, someone would write something back to him, right? He sounds gay to you, Magic Monkey. You have a membership card, so it's not wrong for you to say. Well, you guys, now you guys know why I bought this book. You know, it's a documentation of how not to discuss the flute with people. And it serves as a very like, at least for me, like as funny as this is, it actually serves as a very serious reminder to myself to, one, not take the flute so dang seriously, and two, to be more open to hearing other people out rather than just kind of spewing your own thoughts about how this is supposed to work. Are there 6 copies for sale on Amazon? Hell yeah. Oh, you like this? I like it too. It's actually a little bit backlit from the natural light. And I actually really like this whole kind of setup too. So this camera that I'm pointing to here is actually I've now switched it to the other side of the desk, and I feel like it looks better that way. That way it's not the exact or a similar angle to this camera. Having the two cameras be in two different spots looks better. And also I agree with you. I like the lighting too. Yeah. He sounds like a singer that didn't make it, that went to the flute, then went on to books. Man. Oh, Melanie, do you like the rain? Because I love the rain. It's very calming. Right now it's just overcast, but not raining. So, what is the exact title? Here you go. A Word or Two on the Flute by W.N. James. Is that big enough for you to see? So I will again reiterate. I do not agree with how this guy talks about the flute. Evidently, I also disagree with how he does his research. But it's funny. And I must share how funny it is. Here you go. I'm just going to hold it up for you guys to see a little bit longer. Yeah, it's very funny to see this type of the way that people talk about the flute, to see it documented like this, in a very kind of old book like this too, it's that old library, old book smell, has that old book smell. And, and you feel like if you look at books like this, that it should give you knowledge of the gods type of thing. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, ooh, look at this. Looks like a primary source, right? Ooh, old book. And it's full of this kind of... You bought it, Leon? Yeah, you guys look at how this is what it looks like. This is old style book, Look at that. Yeah. It's it's so funny. You can't not laugh at this. Kiki, flutists say their flute is their child, but non-flutists say the flute is annoying and loud and never intimidating. Are you talking about other musicians say that? You're not wrong, but I wouldn't say every non-flutist says that. Yeah. Oh no, I didn't say the C word. What did I say? What did I want to say? I certainly wasn't thinking of that word. No. Yeah. You're too old to not enjoy this nonsense, Leon. It's a good book. This is funny. It's a good book because it's funny. Okay? I'm not saying it's a good book because it's a good, a good source on how to play the flute. Yeah. I believe this is more widely available in Europe. So that's why I had such a hard time finding it within the States. Because I wanted to, if I was going to buy it from Europe, the import duties were just going to be ridiculous. So and the shipping was going to be ridiculous. So it took a bit of sleuthing to find this being sold by an American library. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Powell's Books in Portland has it. Very cool. Very cool. It's a tutorial on what not to do when writing about. I suppose so, Amir. Yeah, you Amazon the book, $238 Canadian. That sounds about right for like finding this book within North America. Like, that's why I keep saying it took me a long time to find this book being sold by a library within the States. So I paid normal within like domestic shipping for this book. So I think I ended up paying about just over $26, I think, for this book. Something like that. Ooh, book seller in England who sells on eBay. Excellent, excellent. By the end of the stream, it will be sold out worldwide. Oops. Ooh, Amazon has it for 31. Yeah, you have to keep an eye on it because when I was looking, it certainly wasn't there. Yeah, like it changes, right? Because it depends on which bookstores have it, like how did they get it? Because, you know, it kind of depends on when they get it used in some way, shape, or form. Usually you'll find it used. I think it's out of print now. Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. This is what happens when you're in your 60s, have no life, and enjoy stimulating conversation. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, see, so here's the thing, Majima Kichi. I first found this book in a Canadian music library, like music school library. It was in a Canadian music school library that I found it in. So I think it is somewhere in Canada. You have some hope, I would say. Yeah. So anyway, guys, by the way, Daniel, I do see your question, thoughts and opinions on the Rite of Spring. What I will say is what I told the person who interviewed me some time ago. Modern music, fun to play, sometimes not fun to listen to. Though the Rite of Spring is pretty fun to listen to. But I think it's a bit of nostalgia for me too, because, you know, Fantasia and all that. Yeah. One copy left on Amazon. You guys are actually buying this. I think that's so funny. Did I not return the book? I did return the book. I didn't want to. I kind of wanted to just like pay the fine and keep it. But I didn't. I was poor. So I waited until I was, had started to kind of, with this career that I have, when I finally started to make some money, I decided to start going hunting for this again, because I was like, I have to have it in my arsenal. I have to, because it's too funny. Hey, Sheen. The Hello Kitty fabrics. Wait, Leon, that reminds me of the email you sent me. I need to reply you. I'm so sorry. I meant to reply you this morning, and then I ended up moving my setup. So I will eventually. I swear. All right. I took a look at the time, and I think we need to start wrapping up because I need to do some practicing over on Twitch. I wanted to say, I made you stay up until 1:50, but you don't regret it? Oh, Amir, wait, it just occurred to me that you're still here. Filling you guys in with the knowledge about flute history from Egypt. You guys can tell from the way it's written, it's like, come on, you're making this crap up. Okay, so you guys, I do need to take a little bit of a break, at least a few minutes, and then I'll pop on over on Twitch. So let me just show you guys, in case you guys are not sick of me yet, you can find me, ba-boom, right there, twitch.tv/justanotherflautist. I did want to make a mention that I was thinking of essentially closing my Patreon soon. And it's because I took some time to think about it during my staycation, and I realized that I cannot commit to Patreon anymore. It's not fair to my patrons who are paying. So I will do one last kind of farewell live stream over on Patreon next week. I just haven't decided exactly when that's going to happen. But I have decided that, you know, I'll close my Patreon soon. And if you do want to continue supporting me, though, Twitch is the place to be. One, because there is an option for you to connect your Amazon Prime account with Twitch, and that will grant you a free subscription to give to someone's channel, maybe mine. And that is actually a monetary support. If you want to subscribe on Twitch without using Amazon Prime, I believe it's about $6 US to subscribe. And that really helps me out. I would say that that is about like a dollar more than my typical monthly subscription like tier over on Patreon. So it's not too far off from what you would be paying if you were paying on Patreon. But the you know, I don't get the full $6. I get a cut of it, but it still helps me out a ton. And so a subscription is paid on Twitch, but you can follow for free. So if you click the little heart button on Twitch to follow me, you'll sometimes get notifications when I'm live because Twitch is broken. So if you wanted to, you know, get notifications of when I'm live on Twitch, you can either sign up for notifications on my Instagram account, which is just another flutist on Instagram. So go to my profile, click get notifications for my posts, and then you'll receive the notifications of when I go live on Twitch. And then, but yeah, if you want to monetarily support me, Twitch is the place to go. And if you would like to support me more than that, I would ask that you consider gifting subscriptions to other people within the Twitch community. So you can actually click on someone's name in the chat and gift them a subscription. And that makes it so that it's a little bit more community based, and everyone can have a little bit more fun with emotes and stuff like that over on Twitch. Because you know, if you're gonna help me out, I would love it even more if it also meant that it kind of offered a little bit more fun to the rest of the community. So I just wanted to take some time to explain that to you guys. I'm not trying to like beg for money, but I do know that some of you have been wondering how you can support me. So this is how you can support me, is subscribing over on Twitch. So it is a monthly subscription. You do have to renew every month, or I believe you have the ability to pay for several months at a time too, if you would like. So yeah, thought I would just make that little description for you guys, because I know that some of you guys are very new to Twitch. So I wanted to just tell you that that's how it's going to work. But yeah, I love y'all so very much. Thank you for joining me today. It was so fun to read out of this. I feel like we need to continue this. It's so funny. All right, guys. I love y'all very much. I'll see you guys over on Twitch very soon. All right? Laters. Bye.